Con Riyaad Minty del Jazeera, Mara va a tener una sesión de preguntas y respuestas. Bienvenida, Mara.
¿Está encendido esto ya? ¿Sí? Gracias. Hola. Riyaad, mira, quédate por aquí hasta que te presente. Bueno, bienvenido a Riyaad, que es nuestro invitado estrella de esta mañana. Muchas gracias a la red Innova, en nombre de Radio Televisión Española, por dejarme estar aquí, en este ambiente de innovación y de creatividad. Yo siempre pienso que quizá en este nuevo mundo encontramos respuesta a esas tres preguntas que nunca pudimos resolver en el mundo que conocíamos hasta ahora, que es el de dónde venimos, qué somos y hacia dónde vamos. Porque lo que aprendemos a través de la red va tan rápido y la gente sabe tanto que digo, mira, lo mismo, estamos aquí ante la posibilidad de saber cuáles son las respuestas a las tres preguntas mágicas, ¿no?, que se hizo siempre el hombre. En cualquier caso, lo que está claro es que estamos en un mundo que se transforma vertiginosamente, muy candente, la forma de organizarse nueva que están permitiendo las redes sociales, que tiene desbordados a los gobiernos y a los políticos de medio mundo, especialmente en este tiempo a los nuestros, a los políticos y al gobierno español, por las movilizaciones que desde el 15 de mayo estáis viendo que se suceden en Madrid y por los altercados de ayer de Barcelona. O sea que me parece que tener aquí a Riyaad Minty va a ser una oportunidad de oro, no solo porque él podría, no sé si tener la respuesta, pero probablemente darnos algunas pistas a cómo tiene que aprender a relacionarse la clase política con esta masa que se organiza de una manera muy difícil de prever, y también el medio de comunicación, que se encuentra ante unos espectadores que ya no son inmóviles, sino que tienen oportunidad de responder y de crear una información recíproca, que nos sirven como receptores, pero que a la vez son fuente y colaboradores de la información que estamos dando. Como digo, no sé si Riyaad Minty tendrá la respuesta, pero probablemente tenga muchas pistas, porque él es el director de social media de la televisión de Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera es una referencia para muchos de nosotros, especialmente por la cobertura que ha hecho en las revoluciones del mundo árabe, aunque también en su trayectoria él me decía afuera, bueno, tengo 27, es verdad que parezco muy joven, pero no soy tan joven en el mundo de Internet, casi soy un viejo, digo, bueno, no tanto. Pero efectivamente cubrió también otros conflictos como los de la Franja de Gaza, las elecciones en Irán o las elecciones en Estados Unidos. O sea que yo creo que su experiencia nos va a aportar muchas cosas en cuanto a cómo tenemos que empezar a relacionarnos desde los medios, y aprovecharemos también para preguntarle sobre cómo se relacionan los gobiernos con este nuevo fenómeno que estamos viviendo. Riyaad, bienvenido. Es un placer para nosotros que estés aquí y adelante. ¿Le oís? No. ¿Tenemos algún problema con el micro de Riyaad? Si no, le presto este.
Hello. There we go.
Ahora.
All right. Thank you very much. I don't think I'm going to have any advice for the politicians. Social media kind of goes against all of that. But just by way of introduction, hi everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Riyaad Minty, and I'm the head of social media for Al Jazeera. I've been with Al Jazeera for the past 5 years. How many of you have never heard of Al Jazeera before? Just one person? 2 people? So I'm sure a lot of you would have heard about us recently. I think a lot of people don't really know how big Al Jazeera is as a network. We've been around for the past 15 years. Okay. Let's see if I can get this to work. There we go. No? There we go. All right. So Al Jazeera Network has been around for the past 15 years. As you can see, we have a lot of channels. We started off with the Al Jazeera Arabic channel back in 1996, which was the first form of independent media in the Middle East, giving a voice to the voiceless and allowing people to call in, have their voices heard on screen, and really empowering people in the Middle East. 5 years ago, we launched the English channel, which I'm sure a lot of you would have seen. We're in the process of launching our Turkish channel in the Balkans region, in Kiswahili in Africa. We have Al Jazeera Mubashir, which is a live-only channel. We did a lot of live coverage 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, specifically around Egypt. We've just launched Mubashir for Egypt. We have a documentary channel. We have about 20 sports channels. We're the largest sports provider in the Middle East. We have a training center where we do a lot of training courses. We have a research center. And we're always expanding. So we'll be adding a lot of languages coming forward. So as a network, we're really big and we're really growing. As a new media team, we were formed 5 years ago. And our main challenge was to see where media was going to try to understand what our audience was doing. It was really to, let's see, oh, okay. Let's see if this works. There we go. Always problems with technology. So our challenge 5 years ago was to try to understand how to deal with this. This is the changing landscape of media. Our traditional audiences for the Arabic channel were sitting in a coffee shop around a television screen watching us collectively. Till today, people do that. If you're watching us in Egypt, in Libya, people were projecting Al Jazeera on a big screen. People collectively in Tahrir Square were coming out and watching us. Our new audiences are connected. They're online. They're consuming media online. But not only are they consuming media, they're producing media wherever they are. And they want to get media on the preferred platform. They're telling their voices through your normal laptops or your mobile phones. They're engaging. So we set off 5 years ago to try to understand how do we deal with this. And the biggest issue that we realized was it's the issue of relevance. How do we as a media organization remain relevant in this day and age? As people are going online to get the news from their friends, from their peers, traditional media has kind of been diluted. How do we as Al Jazeera remain the source of news of the place that people go to get the information? People are on Twitter. You're getting your news first on Twitter or on Facebook or via text message. When the news of Osama bin Laden came out, the first place I got it was via text message. And even though I work for a news organization, the first place I went to get my news was on Twitter. And to see what links were being shared by my friends. So my entry point to the media is through my social networks. It's no longer through traditional media. And this brought about this whole concept of trust. It's about trust. People trust people. And as us as a media organization, we need to earn the trust of our audience. We need to be able to be there. We need to make our content available as much as possible so people can share it with their friends. When someone tweets a link, you're more likely to click on it because it was referred to you by someone you trust. If it's used a URL shortener, bit.ly, or tiny URL, whatever's out there, you don't care what the end destination is. You care about the person that's referring it to you and the message that's before that. It's all about trust. And this has brought about something new for us, which is a whole new cycle for news. If this works, there we go. It's brought about a new ecosystem for news. We don't really call this new media anymore. We call this media. It's brought about this whole cycle where people are producing media on the social networks and they're distributing it across new platforms to new places. So the next slide is about the participatory culture that exists out there. We have all the inputs that are coming in now from Facebook, from Twitter, from our own user-generated platform. People are sending emails, people are recording. It comes into us. How do we take that? How do we package it? And how do we distribute it out across platforms? We're starting to see ourselves no longer as a TV station, but as content producers, and we produce across multiple platforms. So how do we get our content out there? The best way to explain how this happened is through a case study and the Arab revolutions, which I'm sure everyone was glued to the TVs or to your computer from January, February of this year. It's very interesting, the Arab uprisings, what they've taught us, and the way people consume media. It all started with one man, Mohammed Bouazizi. And Mohammed Bouazizi is the fruit vendor who was in Tunisia. He has been harassed by police on a regular basis. All he was trying to do was to go out and earn an honest living so he could make money and support his family, send his sister to university. The police kept on hassling him, and eventually he just had enough, and he set himself on fire. and burnt himself. Now, traditionally, stories like that, people would cover it and it might go unnoticed. We as Al Jazeera did not have any crews or people on the ground in Tunisia because we were banned. But this video made it online. And we were able to take the video of Mohammed Bouazizi and tell his story and put it online. And what happened then was phenomenal. And I think till today we've seen the impact of that. Immediately after this happened, we had the hashtag on Twitter, CD Bouzid, which started trending, which is the village where he was. And people started coming out in support of him and started saying, hang on, he's not the only one that has problems. All of us have problems too. How can we start telling our stories? And the people of Tunisia started coming out in their thousands and tens of thousands to start protesting. And this caught on. It moved from Sidi Bouzid to a variety of all the other towns. And as Al Jazeera, we were able to take the voices. People were posting pictures, images on YouTube, on Facebook, on Flickr. We were able to take that and amplify it. And as more people saw these images, it encouraged people to go out because people felt protected by a mainstream media organization covering their story and telling their narrative from them. It went to the point where, because there's no mainstream media, and I find this slide always very funny, that they say they were relying on someone live tweeting Al Jazeera to keep up with Tunisia. The reality is that this was televised, and this is my response to them. People were just watching the wrong channel. Some parts of the world people have access to Al Jazeera, some parts people didn't have access to Al Jazeera, and what we learned from Tunisia was to prepare ourselves for the future. And through social media, we were able to keep a pulse on what was happening, our finger on the pulse of what is happening in the Arab world. And we noticed that videos and things started popping up in Egypt. And a young girl by the name of Asma Mahfouz went and recorded a video. This was after 4 people had burnt themselves in Egypt in a similar protest after Tunisia, saying that, we can't let this keep on going on in Egypt. We need to get together. We need to mobilize. We need to stand up for our rights and tell our story. This video went viral. On January 25th, we had no idea how many people were coming up. Us as Al Jazeera, we were actually running a different news story, the Palestine papers at the time. And all of a sudden, my Twitter feed went crazy with people from Egypt saying, where is Al Jazeera? We need Al Jazeera to come and cover this. We need Al Jazeera to come and tell our story. And we started checking what was going on. And from there, no one ever expected what happened. And I think the best way to describe what happened from there is through this video. That's coming up. Can you play the video?
It's very bad for my government. I haven't food, I haven't anything. Me and my children, I will die today. Whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Muslim, whether you're an atheist, you will demand your goddamn rights, and we will have our rights, one way or the other. We will never refund you.
So, till today when I watch that video, I can't believe what we witnessed. Egypt and Tunisia was a turning point in our history. The way in which people took control of their own destiny and told their story and were able to get it out and tell the world what was happening to them was phenomenal. It's never happened before, and I see it happening a lot more moving forward. I was actually watching the news last night while I was putting the final touches on this presentation, and I saw the images coming out of Barcelona, which actually reminded me a lot of that video, which was quite interesting how this has actually spread on and moving around the world. People always ask me, is this a technological revolution? Is it a Facebook revolution? Is it a Twitter revolution? And I honestly don't understand why people need to put labels on these sort of things. It's a people's revolution. It's about the people. It's about people who took control of their own message, who had problems, who stood up and used technology to tell the world that we are here, we need our rights. Why don't you help us? Can you help us? Can you step up for us? And most of the information that came through in that video, all of that was citizen-produced images. People were using it. We had reports coming from Twitter, YouTube. We were using Scribble Live, where people could call numbers to tell their story when the internet got cut off. We have our own user-generated platform. One of the things that we did was we're using Skype to call people up in Egypt, record their voices, post it up on audio booths so people could hear their messages. There was just so much information that was coming in. And that's a challenge for us. How do you make sense of all of this? There's so much information that's coming in. At times you have 200,000 tweets with the same hashtag. How do you understand it? How do you know who it is? This is the equation that we try to follow, which is you take all the information, take out the noise, and you add context. Context is the most important thing that we can do when we're telling a story. Where most media organizations fail is they just take an image from YouTube or Twitter, they put it up, this is what's happening right here, right now. They don't go into the why, they don't go into the who. They don't make these stories personal. And without that personal narrative, people and the viewers do not connect with it. We need to put context on all this information that's coming up online so we can tell an accurate story for the people. That was all very nice and good. And then the internet got cut off. People switched off the internet in Egypt. How do you deal with it then? We were relying a lot on people sending information through to us. What happens? We were fortunate enough to have our crews across Egypt. We had our correspondent Ayman Moideen and a whole lot of other correspondents who were there on the ground and were able to report for us. We had a live shot of Tahrir Square, which became the very iconic image of the struggle for what was happening. And what we found was people really respected that because they weren't able to tell their stories online anymore. Having these live images, people felt protected by Al Jazeera. They felt the government won't come in with force because the world could see what was happening to them. So we had all of these images, we had people watching us, but we knew a lot of people were following this online in real time before. So what we did was, and this is our head of online says, it's not only about taking, sometimes you have to give a little. And I think another thing that a lot of news organizations fail is they're always taking information from the networks and social networks and the communities, they're never giving back to the communities. And for us as Al Jazeera, that is our number one priority. It's about engaging with our audience. It's about, I know they are there for us, but we are there for them too. So we launched our own Twitter account, AJE Live, which we actually launched this during the Gaza war. Minute by minute updates of what was happening on the ground. It was a live broadcast on Twitter. So anyone could go in and follow us and follow these events on Twitter wherever you were. You did not have to be sitting in front of a live stream or in front of a television station. On your mobile phone, you could just scroll through the tweets and see what is happening. We launched our live blogs, which Twitter can only give you 140 characters. Live blogs gives you a lot more and a lot more in-depth. This, at one point, had more traffic than your traditional articles, news articles on our website. It's all about live, real-time coverage of events. We also had a promoter campaign on Twitter. So what we realized is a lot of people would be going in on Twitter and searching for news and information for the hashtags Egypt, #1025, #Mubarak. What we did is we ran a promoted campaign on Twitter, where if anyone searched for these events, the first tweet on the top that you would have seen would have been a tweet from Al Jazeera. And we did this for all the major keywords. If you actually look at the top, all those are tweets from us, and that's all the major keywords. And we were operating this as a news desk. So as we saw big announcements coming out of Egypt, we would then kind of predict that this would be the hashtag. We'd send a tweet out, promote it. So by the time it was trending, someone clicked on the trending topic, this would have been the tweet on top. This resulted in our link to our live stream at the bottom being the most tweeted link on Twitter globally in relation to Egypt. It sent traffic to our website up by 2,500%, majority of it coming from the US, so we don't have normal distribution. The response was absolutely phenomenal. That link was linked into a live stream on our website, but it's not just about bringing traffic to our website, it's also about going to our audience. So we launched live streaming on Facebook. So people could go to our Facebook page and watch a live stream. As events were happening, we would say, tune in live you can watch it right now. We also did an advertising campaign on Facebook directing people who did not have access to Al Jazeera to our live stream, which was phenomenal. It sent a lot of traffic to us. We also had a live stream on YouTube. We're one of the first broadcasters to launch live streaming with YouTube, where anyone could go to our YouTube channel and watch a live stream of Al Jazeera over there. We also had a lot of great traffic. And what happened with that was YouTube liked it so much and the response was so great. When Mubarak was about to step down and give his speech, YouTube had a ticker across the front page. And if anyone went to youtube.com globally, you would have seen that on the top of your screen, directing people to our live stream. It's also about listening to our audience. We were doing this on the other social networks. We weren't really concentrating on new social networks that were coming up like Tumblr. The Tumblr audience posted this online and started mobilizing. Why isn't Al Jazeera here? You guys should be here. Why don't you come and tell us the news? We know you guys like Facebook. We know you guys on Twitter. But we want to get the news too. So we listened to them and we launched a Tumblr page. Today, this is one of the largest news organization Tumblr pages with one of the largest audiences on there. And when you put all of this together, what happens is you start to build trust and credibility. And what happened then is people in the US who did not have us and were watching us online started writing articles. Almost all the major news organizations and newspapers in the US started asking, why don't we have Al Jazeera here? People in the US started saying, we want real news. We don't want to know about Charlie Sheen. We don't want to know about Rebecca Black. We don't want to know about Justin Bieber. We want the real news. We want Al Jazeera to come to the US. And no offense to any fans of Rebecca Black or Justin Bieber. So we launched the Demand Al Jazeera campaign in response to this, which was a promoted trend on Twitter for 24 hours. If anyone went there, clicked on it, you would have seen it in the trending side. It would say it's time to demand Al Jazeera in the USA. It wasn't just about creating awareness, it was a call to action. So people could go to our website. On there, they could put in their zip code and send a message out to the local cable providers, an email message saying we want Al Jazeera on cable in the US. We had about 60,000 messages that were sent through this. That happened, and during all of this is meetup.com, which is a social network that brings people together. They approached us and said, hang on, we get in a lot of traffic here, we love you guys. People want to meet up and watch Al Jazeera, so let's partner and let's see what we can do with that. So we launched this, and we had meetups all across the world popping up. We had people in New York who took our laptop, connected it to a projector on a live stream, and invited people to come and watch Al Jazeera, which was this real grassroots movement, the support of the people. And to see that was phenomenal. We had over 170 meetups across the USA. Till today, meetups are happening. Till today, communities are mobilizing around Al Jazeera. And a lot of that is because we respect our audience, we respect our community. As I said earlier, it's not only about taking from the community, it's about giving back. And when you give back, you build trust, you build credibility, and the audience will come to you and respect you for that. By the end of all of this, Al Jazeera eventually became the news. And if you read that, it says, because some news is so big, it needs its own page. News organizations started reporting on what Al Jazeera are doing. They started taking our feeds and embedding it, which was really fantastic to see that and the support that we got. But this is all well and good, and this is great, getting all the fame and everything that comes out of it, and the audience and the increase in stats. But that's not what we do, why we do what we do. It's about telling the truth. That's why I got into this. This is why people at Al Jazeera, that's why all of us got into the media profession. This is a bottom line of why we're here and why we exist. Telling the truth is hard. We've lost journalists. One of our journalists was killed in Libya. Our journalists have been kicked out of many countries. They've been beaten up. Journalists across the world have been locked and lives have been lost. People who are out on the streets trying to tell their own stories are losing their lives. And it's hard. But at the end of the day, it's what we do. Not telling the truth is even harder. And that's really why we are here. This is why you see people protesting around the world, because the world we live in is not as great and peachy as we like to think. We always turn on the news, we can flip through, we can watch news, get bored of it, flip to an entertainment channel, watch a music video, watch something else. And a lot of the time we forget about the real stories and the real issues that people are there. And for us, it's about putting the human being back at the center of everything. It's about going back to the stories. It's about going back to the realness, the injustices that are happening in the world. It's about getting those marginal voices, putting them back through our channels, even if it's only 140 characters at a time. That's our job. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Riyaad. ¿Cuánto tenemos? ¿20 minutos? ¿15? ¿Me podéis poner el tiempo para que nos ajustemos, tanto como nuestro invitado? ¿10? 10 minutos para charlar. De referencia a la hora de involucraros en las revoluciones. Quería preguntarte, ¿qué te parece, aunque sé que lo has mencionado, el movimiento del 15M aquí en España? Tanto la revolución española del 15M como los altercados que hemos estado viendo esta semana, que me parece que estás al tanto. No le traduce. ¿Le podéis traducir?
All right, so
¿Está bien? ¿Ahora bien?
Okay, so it's really motivating to see how people have come together and mobilized around whatever issues that they have. Obviously, the situation in Spain is very different to different parts of the world, but what we've seen through social media is governments can no longer get away with anything. People have rights, and people will use whatever medium they can to get their message across. And what we've seen in Spain, what I've followed, is people are using this as a tool to get their messages heard. If the government's not listening to us, we will turn online and we will tell our message. We want the world to know what's happening. We want our rights. And technology has facilitated that discussion. Technology has enabled people across the world, wherever they may be, to tell it and tell those stories. And I think what happened in Tunisia, Egypt, I think what's happening in Spain is motivated based on what happened there. The youth saw what happened there and they motivated to tell the world this is what's happening. It's not all, as I said, all great as we'd like to think it is.
De todas formas, las diferencias fundamentales entre las revoluciones árabes y la revolución española es que aquí hay democracia, es un país libre, y es verdad que la sensación que tenemos es que los gobiernos están desbordados ante esa capacidad que tiene la gente de movilizarse sin que ellos puedan preverlo. ¿Cuál crees que es la clave para que los gobiernos, de la misma manera que los medios lo están intentando, encuentren a los demás como cómplices y no como enemigos?
So I don't think it's about choosing a side for media. It's about being balanced, but it's about telling the story. It's about respecting them and about giving them a voice. The reason a lot of them are probably going online is because their voices aren't getting heard through traditional media. And media organizations need to respect it. They need to understand that there are real issues. People are coming out. People have a story to tell. How do we put them back at the center? And it's not about imposing your view upon them. It's about letting them speak for themselves. And I think that's where a lot of media organizations fail these days, is that they tend to speak on behalf of the people. And what I believe is you need to let the people tell the story themselves through their own voices. And that's why they're going online, because they feel that the media is not representing them and the issues. So we need to give them a platform and let them come and let them tell the issues to the broader world.
Has comentado que Al Jazeera creaba además la capacidad de escuchar al otro, ¿no? No solo lanzaba su mensaje, sino que además escuchaba lo que decía el ciudadano. Ahí están fallando muchos medios de comunicación que solo utilizan la red social como plataforma para lanzar sus mensajes sin escuchar, sin recibir el mensaje que les lanzan desde el otro lado, y luego, ¿cómo lo habéis conseguido?
Well, the first thing is social media. The first word is social. It's about being social. It's about engaging with people. It's not just about media. And when we started off, I think, for myself, I use it personally. As I said, when the news of Osama bin Laden broke, first place I went to get the news was on Twitter. And I think that's what media organizations fail to understand. It's not a broadcast platform only. It's a social environment. People are there to connect mostly with their friends, and we need to understand and respect it. When we go in online, we're going into something that we don't control. It's a whole different ecosystem. It's where the people are and they're engaging, and we need to engage with them. We need to listen to them. And as soon as you understand that, I think things will be fine. And most people don't do that. They just see it as, we have our TV screen, we have our website, and we'll do the same everywhere else. It's a whole different system altogether.
Pero interactuáis visiblemente, quiero decir, vosotros respondéis desde Al Jazeera, respondéis a los tweets, entráis en Facebook y escucháis y ellos lo perciben que estáis escuchando.
So we respond as much as we can, and a lot of the response that we get is on our screens. So we take what we get from them, we put it on our screens, and we always credit people where they give us information. And we do interact with a lot of them. So when someone sends us a video from Tunisia, our journalist who's monitoring it will respond to them and say, are you in Tunisia? Can you help us verify it? Can you give us more information? And because we have this connection with them, we build trust. And what's happened is we have people across the Arab world now who've come to us, and we have a trust network who we can call up at any time and say, you know what, we heard this happen, can you help us verify it? And that's from the connection that we have. And again, it's a personal connection. So what we encourage is we don't try to do it as Al Jazeera, as our main accounts. We encourage our journalists who are working on the story to do it because it's personal. People want to communicate with a person at the end of it, not with some generic account. So we encourage that personal interaction between our journalists and people.
Riyaad, mucha gente se pregunta si habrá un momento en el que el bloguero o el que escribe un tuit o el que participe con vosotros, con cualquier medio de comunicación, va a sacar rentabilidad económica de eso. Si alguna vez van a conseguir que se les pague por hacer eso.
So that's the $1 million question. I think so. I think it will definitely become profitable. I think most people who are online and blogging and are doing this, for the revolution specifically, aren't doing it for the money, they're doing it because it's a story. And I think the people who are telling the real stories have more issues that they want to be heard. For us, some of our citizen media platforms which we have, we're going to be starting to reward people for the best content that comes in via paying or via providing them with equipment. What we've done is with 400 citizen media people, we've just bought cameras, which we're going to be giving out to them and equipping them and giving them training, with them eventually becoming interns or working for us. So there is a reward that will come out at the end of it. It's still early days to see how that will mature and how people will take to it. But I think it's only fair that if people are producing media, they should be compensated in some form for it.
¿Se ha dado en Al Jazeera el caso de que contratarais a algún ciudadano por su nivel de participación o su calidad en sus aportaciones?
So yeah, we do have people in our Arabic channel who are contributing a lot during the uprisings, even before that, bloggers who've come on board. And I think in the next couple of months right now, we're looking to hire a lot more people, those authentic voices. I didn't go to journalism school, so I think a lot of journalists will be offended when I say this, but there's only so much you can learn in journalism school. When you get out into the real world, it's very different. And I think people who have real world experience, if we can take them and then give them the skills, it's a very powerful tool because they're able to tell their own stories versus a journalist who will fly in and tell a story on behalf of people. And we try to be the voice of the people from the people. So if we can find people who have those credible voices and if we can train them and give them the tools to tell professionally packaged thing, we will do that and we'll try and bring them on board.
Riyaad, ¿tú crees que Internet necesita leyes que lo regulen?
It's a very broad question. In some parts, I guess, yes, but overall, I'm against any form of censorship, you could say. If you look until today, if you were to go on Facebook and try to set Iran as your country, you can't do that because of US sanctions on companies, so someone from Iran can't, say that they're in Iran. And I think we're living in a world where people will find their voices and they'll get things that are going out there. If you look at Tunisia, when they started blocking the websites, Anonymous, which is a story about Anonymous in Spain just 2 days ago, they were there and able to help the people. If we had censorship in that form, Anonymous wouldn't be able to be there. The whole concept of the web is it's free and it's open, and anyone can use it as best as they can. Yes, obviously, if people are pushing the bounds for criminal acts or something like that, that's another issue altogether, but it should be free and open, and I think that the governments who are trying to put regulations are scared, and they're just trying to put a lid on it, and eventually it's going to boil over and they're not going to know what's coming.
Riyaad, ahora que citas la detención de los 3 supuestos miembros de Anonymous en España, nos llama mucho la atención el lenguaje que utilizó la policía cuando describía la operación, mucho más vinculado a operaciones antiterroristas. Hablaba de la detención de una cúpula con una amplia red para organizar sus ataques. ¿Te parece que es un lenguaje apropiado para hablar de Anonymous, que realmente son tan peligrosos como los venden?
So I think that statement, and I was reading an article about it on our website earlier, they really don't understand what Anonymous is about. Anonymous is a collective. It's many people that are out there. No one knows who they are. If you're going to go and arrest 2 or 3 people, you're not doing anything. It's a culture that exists on the internet, and it's something that can't be stopped. You can try to, you can make as many press statements as you want about it, but it's not going to stop them. And I think that ultimately it's a good culture. I think if it wasn't for Anonymous, if you think the revolutions in Tunisia and that were good, Anonymous helped quite a bit in that. It depends again on a case-by-case basis, but all of it, I think the statement is a big PR thing to say, you know, we're going after these people and we're doing something, but they really don't understand the whole culture on the internet.
Tenemos 3 segundos, Riyaad. Última pregunta. ¿Qué tiene que hacer uno para convertirse en trending topic en Twitter?
Just tweet, just engage with people. I personally don't like people who tell me what they're having for lunch, and a lot of my close personal friends, I don't follow them. I think the founders of Twitter said that Twitter is an information network. And whatever your skill set is, whatever industry you're in, use it to share ideas, use it to exchange ideas, use it to engage with people. And people will come to you and respect you for that. Use it to find more information. Being a good Twitter user doesn't only mean producing content, it also means being good at who you follow, the type of information you're taking out from them. So just understand that it's an information network and use it within your field as much as you can.
Riyaad Minty, muchísimas gracias por haber estado aquí con nosotros en la red Innova, acompañándonos esta mañana.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This way, please. Genial, Mara, gracias. Hasta luego. Bueno, nuestro siguiente speaker de hoy, director de desarrollo de negocio de Facebook, que viene desde Londres para estar con todos nosotros. Cristian, bienvenido.